All right, page 17. 17. Okay, so we're going to talk about additional costs that you will encounter when you own a home. Not all of them, but quite a few of them you will come across. And we got to talk a little bit about maintenance and energy efficiency, right? How you can save some money on that. So there are two types of additional costs here. We have ongoing, talked about it a little bit, and we have a category which we call one time. Okay. And so there are many additional costs, right? So get rid of the one time because this is a bit of a mix here, right? There are many additional costs on purchasing a home, such as, and next to every single one of these, I'll write down ongoing or one time. Okay, most of them are one time, but you also need to know your ongoing costs. So appraisal fees, when you borrow money, the bank or the lender, right, must determine the value of the home, okay, by hiring a certified appraiser. This is a one-time cost. Write it down. One time, because I will ask you on a test or maybe on the exam, you'll be asked from time to time, hey, what kind of expense would this be? What kind of cost would this be? One time or ongoing? Appraisal fees, what are appraisal fees? Well, when the bank is about to borrow you the money and they're about to like give you that loan, oftentimes they'll send out a person to actually appraise, like figure out if your house is actually worth, the house you're buying is actually worth as much as you're claiming that it is. I had I had an appraiser come in twice over the lifetime, and they come in and they check. It's basically a real estate agent, I believe. It's a real estate agent that the bank hires to check your house. So they check for windows, what type of windows you have, what type of furnace, is there anything wrong with the house? Is it like a modern home or is it old? Is everything outdated? You know, the old wood, everything, or is it nice and modern, right? So then the individual will then take note of all of that. They have like a big checklist. They go home, they kind of crunch the numbers, and they tell the bank this is how much the house would be worth right now. So that is usually a one-time cost, and the bank usually charges you for it. Sometimes it's free. It depends on how badly they want your business, right? Inspection costs lets you know of any hidden, write that down, hidden repairs or problems with the construction of the home. And that is also one time. Write that down. And here I want to say something very important. When you buy a house, you can't just buy it like at a store. You buy an electronic device, right? You actually have to put in an offer. It's a legal document. You sign it. You say, hey, this is how much I'm going to give you for the house. And please always put down, and I'm sure somebody will advise you the same, to say I'm going to buy it if it passes the inspection. Say this, I'm purchasing the home pending inspection. And what that does is it gives you the ability to hire an inspector. And I don't know any particular ones. Just ask your real estate agent or ask someone, and you hire that person. It costs anywhere between $300 to $500 to get it inspected. You might think, whoa, that's a lot of money. You know what? $300,000 for a house, that is a lot of money. So if you end up getting it inspected and it fails, or that inspector might find something in the house, like, hey, I found a crack in the basement that would cost you $5,000 to repair it. If you still want the house, you can negotiate with the owners, right? You can say, I still want the house, but it's going to cost me. So you shave off some of the price that you made your offer at the beginning. So always put that in and be willing to pay that. The inspector will check for electrical, plumbing, the attic, the roof, everything. Like it's a complete inspection, and so you have peace of mind before you buy it that it's actually in working order. Because let's just put it this way, a lot of owners will not disclose everything that's wrong with the house, right? There could be a leak somewhere on the roof in the spring, but you won't notice in the summer, right? So it's worth paying the money. So that's all I'm going to say. Let's keep going. Property survey, that's also a one-time. A lot of banks will ask you to pay for a survey. So what is that? You hire an individual, a surveying company, to actually tell you exactly where your lot begins and ends. Because you could be building a fence and it's not in the right place. Like there's actually an exact line where your property begins and ends. If you build a fence 1 foot over and your neighbor does a survey and realizes that, you might have to pay to move it over, right? So you want to make sure you know exactly where your property is. So survey is a one-time cost. Let's skip that. We're going to skip this. We're not going to talk about it today. Home insurance. What is that? Ongoing, right? You can't live without home insurance. I would strongly advise to always make sure you have, because if you have a fire and you're not insured, even for a day, if it happens within that day that you weren't insured, that's it, you're on your own. Land transfer tax, that's a one-time deal. It happens when the house is purchased. We talked about that. We're not going to do interest adjustments. Property taxes, just get rid of the prepaid. Just talk about property taxes. That would be ongoing. Okay? And the reason it says prepaid, because sometimes the previous owner that you're buying it from has already paid for the whole year. You have to pay that back to that owner. But you keep on paying afterwards, right? Legal fees and disbursements. Lawyer. Okay? A lawyer, when you're buying a home, that is a one-time expense, one-time cost. You need a good lawyer to transfer the money and to make sure everything is legally done. Moving expenses, one time. I will say appliances, one time. And you might say, well, Mr. Dixon, it can break down the road again. Yeah, but it's kind of like a once in a while thing, so we put it in a one-time. Decorating costs, painting, carpeting, all of that. Usually when you move in, you know what, that one is controversial. Let's scratch that. Some of you might say, well, what if you keep on updating the home, right? It's ongoing, so I'll just leave it out. So I need you to have a list on your study sheet, 2 of each at least. And let's just highlight the ongoing, because there are only 2 ongoing, right? Home insurance and property taxes on this page. So just know which one is which. I will ask you, like I might give you a list and say write ongoing or one time next to these expenses or costs, and determine that. You get a mark for each, right? So that's the additional cost that you will have as a homeowner. Now we're going to skip quite a few pages now. 40 in the 40s, page 40. So today I'm just talking a little bit about those. These are what I consider easy marks if you just read it over and make sure you have it on your study sheet. If you're online, I hope you're following. For maintenance, folks, there are 2 branches. Page 40, 40, okay? Write this down. We will have something called preventative you prevent major expenses by performing preventative maintenance. And then there's emergency maintenance or repairs that result from not having a good preventative routine in your home. Okay? So home maintenance means keeping your home in good condition by checking or repairing regularly. Very important. Don't just leave things to chance. Always check. In the winter, it's tough, right, to walk around the house on the outside, but I always do that quite regularly, especially after a storm. Okay? So the first category we're going to talk about is preventative maintenance. So you need to just follow along. You don't need to write a whole lot, just listen. Okay? So some preventative maintenance is listed here. Check window wells and storm drains. So these are our gutters, right? You want to check everything. I would say at the end of fall, when the leaves have all fallen, you want to make sure that your gutters are clean, because in the spring, when it's all icy and it wants to melt, you don't want it to clog up and potentially have water come into your house, right? So make sure you check that all the time. Check the siding for damage. So around the house, sometimes if, let's say this is the side of your house, you all have like bathroom fans, right? Or the dryer outlet, like, you know, these little flaps that open when you turn on your bathroom fan. You all know what I'm talking about, right? If there over time there are cracks that develop around it, okay, from the expansion and contraction, and those cracks are often big enough for mice to come in to the house. That you do not want that, especially in the fall. They will try to find some warm place, right? So you want to make sure you always seal that and make sure there are no cracks, because mice can crawl up stucco. Did you know that? They can actually crawl up stucco and come into your house. So if you open your windows and there's no screen, they will come into your house through there. So make sure you don't leave your windows open without a screen on your by your window, okay? Check driveway and sidewalks for cracks. Why would you do sidewalks? It's not really yours, but driveway, I'll tell you this because it can save you a lot of money. What happens when you see a crack in your driveway? What does that mean? One of the slabs is sinking, right? One of them is sinking, and so just over time just cracks, and then it will just keep on doing it year after year. There's water coming under there, washing out somehow. So what you want to do is you want to, like if this is your driveway and there's a crack there, what they do is Mudrockers is one of the companies that does this. They drill little holes all over the place. They're very small. You can barely see them. They put hoses in there and they pump in concrete, or they pump in a foam. It's expandable foam. So you can actually go on YouTube and watch how they raise the slab. Like they'll keep pumping until it's level. And then they will seal the crack and these little holes as best as they can. It almost looks like nothing ever happened. Saves you tons of money, because a driveway, I have a buddy working in construction. A driveway can cost you 20 grand or more nowadays. Concrete is very, very expensive. So watch out for that. Check your fence and your gates. My fence is right now wobbling back and forth. I just saw that last night because one of the posts is broken. So I'm going to have to replace that in this summer. Check trees. Make sure there are no limbs over your roof. You want to trim that. Check the drainage around your house. This is very important. I can't overemphasize this. If your home, let's say this is your home, right? And you have a basement underneath it. Sometimes over time, the soil around your house is kind of like pointing towards the house. So that will force any water, any rain to go down and down the side of the basement, and water always wins. What do I mean by that? Water just sits there until the crack in your basement wall is big enough, and then it will start seeping in, and then you have a problem, right? So what you want to do is always get some soil every year or every two, and make sure you fill in that area and slope it away so that the water runs away from your home. You don't want it to pool around your house. Okay, very important. Check the roof for damage. Clear any debris that is there. If you go up in your roof, get a ladder, check for any, I didn't know this, but I actually had a small leak in my roof 2 years ago. And you know who noticed that? Our neighbors were getting their roof done, and that guy told me that you're missing a few shingles, like they had broken off with the wind or whatever. And so they repaired that, and that saved me a big issue down the road. Okay. You should be caulking and weather stripping the windows and doors. So, right, like if there are any drafts coming around, if this is your door, you want to add, like, sometimes it's made out of rubber, sometimes foam. You put it around to make sure there's a seal there and no drafts can come into the house. Check the basement walls for cracks and condensation, yada, yada, yada. Let's move on. Here are some emergency repairs, right? I will highlight the ones that are very important for you to know. Replacing your hot water tank, replacing the roof, and I would say home foundation, which is your basement. Those three I would highlight. Those are the most popular ones. If you check your hot water tank from time to time, if this is your water tank, right? If you start seeing rust down here, that is a sign that it's gonna probably leak pretty soon. So you should replace that. It's 500, 600 bucks, not that bad. Otherwise, that water will gush out and your whole basement will be damaged, right, because of the water. Pay attention to this. There's something called a hot water diaper. So basically what that is a tray with a hose that goes to the drain. So if ever water comes out, it will drain out and not damage your house, right? What's the first thing you should do if there's a leaking hot water tank? What would you do? What's the first thing you would do if you come to the basement and your carpet is wet? You're like, uh-oh. Turn off the main water. You should know where that is. It's somewhere hidden. It's under the stairs or something. Turn off the main water line first, and then, because otherwise that water is just flowing, right? Okay, that's preventative versus emergency repairs. So basically, you can do something to prevent costly repairs down the road. So preventative is what you do to basically avoid the emergency repairs. Changing your furnace filters regularly would be under that as well. Okay, and the last thing, let's go to page 42. After that, I'm letting you work on review stuff. Okay, so energy efficiency, that's the one, this is on page 42, okay? We use a lot of energy as Canadians because of our harsh winters. We use primarily for heating purposes, we use natural gas and we use electricity. So this cabin right here, I don't know if you see the white baseboard heaters, those white baseboard, those are electric. And this heating that's coming out of the vents, that is natural gas. So there's natural gas that burns, right? It heats the air, and then so this cabin has both ways of heating. And so we got to talk about how can we reduce our cost, right? So here are some tips, right? Tips to reduce your electricity consumption. What can you do to, it's basically your hydro bill. I will say this, your hydro bill has always two components, electricity and natural gas. Every bill will have both, they separate them, okay? So we are going to focus on electricity. What can you do to reduce your electricity consumption? One thing that's quite easy to do is upgrade to LED bulbs, right? So change all your lights to LED. Even that light that goes on when you the outdoor lights or whatever that have a motion sensor, right? Those ones change them to LED. It's a lot cheaper. Use timers if you can. If you plug in your car, I would not have it plugged in all night. I would put a timer, set it to 2 hours before you need to leave in the morning, and save yourself a lot of electricity there. Another thing is install motion sensor switches. And I think you know what I'm talking about, right? I have kids, so they always turn on all of the lights in the basement. And when I come down, there's nobody there and all the lights are on. So I've installed some of these in some rooms, right? Like the playroom, right? Where they're like that way, if they're not moving, if nobody's moving, it will turn off on its own, right? So they save a lot of money too. And here I would say the last one I'm going to mention, there's so many, folks. Upgrade appliances. You want to basically go with high efficiency. I think I don't think there's a single appliance you can buy these days that isn't a high efficiency appliance. So we're talking dishwashers, we're talking ovens, right? Dryers, anything, right? So go high efficiency or Energy Star approved. You probably know what I'm talking about. If something is Energy Star approved, it meets certain criteria and it will reduce the amount of electricity you use. I'm just going to give you 4. That's all I'm going to talk about there. If you have some cool ones, bring it, right? Just give me something that would reduce your electricity bill, and I will give you the mark if that is ever mentioned, okay? Nowadays, everything is smart, right? Yeah. Sorry? Natural. I just shortened natural there. Natural gas, yeah. Smart, these smart switches, smart everything. You can turn off, like if you ever leave the home, you're like, oh, did I turn off the lights? Nowadays with a phone, I don't like that, to be honest. But a lot of people do, and I have nothing against it. But hey, that's coming too, smart, right? All right. Let's keep going with heating. This is the last thing, guys. And then you can work on reviewing, update your study sheet, you name it. So for heating, we're just going to talk about tips to reduce heating costs, right? So how can you reduce? The first thing that I would say is upgrade insulation. And you can do that in your attic or walls. You know what the attic is, right? Some students don't know what the attic is from time to time. Yeah, it's if this is the ceiling of your house, there is lots of insulation here. It's blown in insulation. So basically they have like a big machine here with a pipe, and they blow that insulation, so it's like fluffy up there. There's like probably like 2-3 feet of insulation sitting on top to prevent the heat from going up, right? So older houses don't have a whole lot. They might have a foot because back then it wasn't code, right? So they upgraded it so you can actually upgrade it. Sometimes it's free. If you go to Manitoba Hydro's website, you might qualify for a free upgrade, and that's pretty cool, right? Because it saves you money, less heat. Your furnace doesn't need to go on that much. Another one here. Upgrade windows. This one is expensive. Upgrading windows can cost a lot of money, but maybe in the long run it looks better and it saves you heating as well. You go triple pane. How do you know a house has double or triple pane windows? Use your phone, turn on your flashlight, and just go really close to it. If you see 3 flashlights, it's a triple pane, right? If it's only 2, then it's a double pane. Okay. So there's basically 3 layers of glass. That's what that is. I will say here, upgrade furnace. If you have you want high efficiency. And last but not least, a smart thermostat. And I don't know if you know, I'm sure you have an idea what that means, but nowadays they have these thermostats that actually study movement in the home. Like they kind of learn. It's like what time is somebody at home, what time is nobody home, right? So they have like a sensor, and so over time it will automatically turn down the heat when it doesn't need to be as warm. And so it saves you a lot of money because you don't need to heat a place where nobody's at, right? So that's that. We're at 1:15 here, and I'm basically going to give you two things, okay, to review. And I want to explain it because when I post it, it might be a little confusing. Yeah, this looks heavier. So one is an old quiz. There's going to be a PDF with the answer key posted. Okay, so this one is a pretty straightforward copy. Then is this one here. It's actually a Google form. But if you're here today, you get a paper copy, so you can do the work here. And I will also post a Google form where you can actually answer it. It's all multiple choice, so you just go click, click, click. And I have it set up that you can try it as many times as you want, but it will not give you the right answer. It will only tell you the wrong, like which ones you got wrong. So that way you can keep trying until you get it, right? Because if you get the answers right away, you're not, right? Like you don't really, you're not trying to fix what is wrong. All right, so we'll do that. If you need a quick overview as to what you need to study, I did that at the very beginning of this unit. It's at the front of your booklet, right? And you have resources, right? You have videos, everything is there. I would say make sure you review GDSR, insurance, and property taxes, right? Because those are the ones that we kind of just went through this week. And you need to know that stuff, okay?